Dorien Davies is an actor, puppeteer, writer, and producer. In this episode of the Swazzle Lunch Break, we talk to her about what it's like for an actor to enter the joyful world of puppetry.
So, for people who may be familiar with you or not familiar, maybe just tell the audience a little bit about, yourself and what you do and who is Dorien Davies.
I'm a lady. I live in Los Angeles, and I make my living mostly puppeteering. I'm an actress. First I was an actress, and then you guys taught me how to puppeteer somewhere around 2005 as part of the Jim Henson Company's production of Puppet Up, because I came from the improv comedy world. You guys were my teachers, and I love saying that, because whenever we go places, it's the first thing I say, like, well, these guys taught me everything I know. So
yeah, I have a question regarding that, because we're people that started puppeteering when we were 13. So I'm very interested to know what the experience is like for someone like yourself. You're an accomplished actor, you're doing commercials, you did your own film, which I'd love to talk a little bit about too. What is the experience like to learn a skill like puppetry when you're already established in another skill like acting?
I think most people in Los Angeles are good at multiple things. They're multi-hyphenates. And I don't necessarily think that that's always just because we're so talented in lots of different areas. It's rather survival, Okay. Oh, well, if this is how I can make a living and get my insurance, I'm going to do this, But for me specifically, I feel like moving into puppetry was obviously as a child, I had a really profound, Jim Henson, Fraggle Rock, Labyrinth, Dark Crystal, and Sesame Street had a really big impact on my life. I think it's probably our generation. It was really important. And so when I was invited to Henson, it was like someone had given me a golden ticket, and I wasn't gonna mess it up under any circumstances, because I loved every moment of those classes with you guys. I love the technical aspect. I would drive around in my car, lip syncing with my right hand to all the songs that came on the radio. I took to it really quickly because it was really joyful. And I think so often people follow the life of an artist because they find it joyful. And then when they move to it in actual practice, it loses some of its joy because it's demystified. Sure, or you realize maybe it's not what you thought it was. And so for performance, I think puppetry really reinvigorated my imagination and the sparkle of actually being able to perform and be whatever they wanted me to be.
You can play a baby. You could play.
I play a baby.
You could play a monster. You could be a dog.
A monster, an alligator, a rock. I could be anything. And in the on-camera world, I'm just what I look like. And I remember just feeling so discouraged after college that people just compartmentalized you in such a rigid way in Hollywood. And Hollywood's known for that, but I was like, I'll be different. It'll be great. And, it's really challenging. It's really challenging. I mean, they're two very different worlds that I occupy. And one is really liberating and joyful. And the other one is really, really fun for me when it happens. But I think being a woman of middle age, puppetry's been really liberating because I don't have to sit in an hour and a half of makeup. I don't have to worry if I put on 5 pounds. Not that I really should anyway, but it's liberating and fun, and it keeps the fun going at work. Because it's always different. Right. Every show is different. That's been really exciting, and I'm really very grateful for all the opportunities that I've been given.
And you've played some, characters for TV shows and feature films. I'm wondering, I'd love to hear the difference between creating, or if there is a difference between creating a character as a person, as a fleshy actor.
I think it's kind of the same. Honestly, I really think it's kind of the same. I think that, that audition process and that original kind of like going through a script and really imagining like, who is this person, or Rock? Like, who is this? Like, what do they want? Like, where are they going in life? What are their needs and their desires, and like, where do they come from, and all that stuff? Just, it's all the figure out stuff, and I mean, to a lesser degree, you do that for like commercials, usually you're just going for the joke, and sometimes that can be the case on camera too, but I feel like my most substantial roles currently right now are in puppetry, and they feel the same. It feels like the same instrument that travels all the way through. And, whenever people interview me who aren't puppeteers, and they always say, like, what's one thing you want people to know about puppeteers? It's always that we are actors.
Yes.
We're actors first and foremost. We are SAG. We create characters. We immerse ourselves in the magic. It's just that we translate it in a different way.
Because you approach it from an acting point of view, I would love to talk a little bit about character voices. And a lot of people ask us about the creating of character voices. So I'd love to hear from you, like, what is your process, or, where do the voices come from?
Sometimes they're based on people I know. But sometimes it's really just kind of like, I deep dive. Sometimes it's hard for me because, and you've been at these kinds of auditions. I think you guys have been at some of these auditions with me, where you walk in the room and they're like, we don't know what we want.
Right.
But we'll know it when we see it. And that kind of makes me insane, because they want me to do the directing, like, I will give you what you want if you tell me what. But at the same time, it's also a real challenge, because you get to really play. And so, like, I very frequently will get like an email saying like, hey, they liked what you did. Can you give them 3 more options? And I'll go all over,
right.
I'll just give them like crazy options, because that's what I think is funny. But I think to me, the voice, the puppet voice, and like voiceover process is sometimes really challenging. I've noticed more than not that I'll be in a room with guys and girls, and the girls will get 20 times as many notes as the guys. And there's this, and that's old. It's like an old misogynistic kind of thing about how people say they don't like the way a woman's voice sounds. Like, I don't like her voice. I don't like the way she sounds. So we dive into it and we push farther, we give them even more options, and we tell them, like, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this. It really just takes like a day or two. And I think I struggle sometimes when I'm in the room and someone says, we really like what you did. Can you do it like this? And like, I come from an improv background, but if you really want me to nail it, give me a couple days, like, so I can work on this accent, work on this dialogue, work on this person just a little bit more. And I do think that voices come from character. Like, they have to come from character. You can just have a one-liner in the background and be that like old lady, old grandma from New Jersey, and that's it. But like a real character, like a series regular or a lead or something like that, like that has to come from who this person is.
Right.
And give me a day, like, like on the day when I'm in the room, because sometimes it's like I'll get a part without auditioning, but sometimes I go and I audition, and I get kind of thrown because I know what they want, but I don't know what they want, and I need a little bit more time. I'm a little bit more slow moving for someone that comes from improv. I think I like to do my homework.
Did you, because I don't know this, when you went to college, were you studying acting? Was that your main?
Yeah.
Was that something you were always into as a kid? I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, my whole life, actually. My parents owned a bookstore in Santa Barbara, and when I was a little girl,
Cool.
my dad thought it would be really great if I did the bookstore's radio commercials, because then
cool.
they wouldn't have to pay for my tuition. So at 7 years old, every Monday I went and I did a series of radio commercials. And I did summer stock, and I did every summer camp, and I was in every school play. And I went off to Mount Holyoke in Western Massachusetts, and I majored in theater, but that college has a consortium where there's Amherst, UMass, Smith and Hampshire, and Mount Holyoke College, and you can take classes at all 5 of the colleges. So I really had a great time doing that. I didn't do study abroad. I just did theater at UMass or theater at Amherst, and that was really, really exciting for me. But I also, here's something you may not know.
Yeah.
I was a studio art minor, and I specialized in figure study, and a lot of my it's so weird, a lot of my art was hands.
Oh,
wow. And I had no idea where this was going.
Wow.
So weird.
Well, hands are the hardest thing to draw. I mean,
yeah. Well, mostly it was sculpture.
Oh, I didn't know that. You sculpted.
So you sculpted 3-dimensional hands, and now you make your living with your hands.
It's so weird.
That's amazing. That's awesome.
And and people and I did a lot of figure sculpture, and I always have a different, people always ask, why don't you build? And I'm like, that's not my world, but I have an appreciation for what you guys do in a way that probably other people that didn't have 4 years of sculpture intensive education.
I wonder if having just an appreciation of form and dimension, I wonder if that contributes to you as a puppeteer. I would imagine it has to.
I think you're right. I think that's what it is. And I think one of the things about puppetry and specifically is that you're always composing frame, right? You're always composing frame. We are like directors.
For people who don't know, I mean, a lot of times, well, hopefully all the time, when you're doing a puppet shoot, you have a monitor where you give the camera's view. So you have to be
Yeah. So we set that up all the time, and I think that definitely comes in handy.
Join us for part 2 of our interview with Dorien Davies, when we talk to her about what it's like to produce your very own motion picture.